Oh, God. How shall I proceed? I mean, any minute now. It could be any minute now. Let's just pretend that he has actually stepped down. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, the latest news is Biden stepped down, so ignore what I say henceforth. Psych, Biden didn't really step down, but he could by the time I upload this, because I'm not gonna rush. But, you know, it could be any day now. We're July 11th, and I don't know how to proceed from here. You know, I'd hate to just upload and then just, yeah, as I'm uploading, Biden says, I'm stepping down because clearly I'm a Nimrod. I'm finally accepted I'm a Nimrod, so I'm going to step down. But as of this time, as of the 11th, he hasn't. So, you know, let's just proceed, whatever. I'm not going to interject here anymore. Let's just proceed as if he hasn't stepped down yet. But, you know, if he has stepped down, let's just pretend he has. And then I'm going to go, psych, he hasn't.
Lost an election, refused to concede, refused to participate in the peaceful transfer of power.
We know. How can you say it with so much intensity when we know?
And then he tried to...
For 3.5 years, say it with so much intensity, we know.
...overthrow an American...
Like, it matters, but, like, how does your brain not get tired of repeating it, Joe?
...an election. And that guy is winning right now. There's no way that guy should ever be winning against a Democratic candidate. Come on.
Yeah, but that guy is not winning because people don't like Biden. That guy is winning because conservatives are insane. I'm sorry.
I know, right?
Conservatives are crazy. No. That is absolutely the case. Well, I won't use the delusional word, but like, yes, conservatives have lost their mind, okay?
Based in Lib-pill. But watch Genk.
Also, when we're looking at what...
Watch Genk
well, I won't use that.
Watch Genk as he says.
Insane. I'm sorry. Conservatives are crazy. That is absolutely the case. Well, I won't use the delusional word, but like, yes, conservatives have lost their mind, okay? Also, when we're looking at like trying to win an election, we're trying to turn out...
Lib-pill. You know how sometimes there's some people who are just too daft to even learn the basics, but they're very energized because of these familial concerns, but they're too daft to learn the basics. You have a gender ideology, both of you. Probably has to do with chivalry, something thereabouts. You don't have non-ideological takes on gender. When are you going to learn this? This is like the third time I've launched into this rant over the YouTube course. Gender ideology can be many things. So what you here, I think, mean to say is you want to protect them from transgender ideology. But we all have a gender ideology. What, you think just because it serves biological functions in some sense, you having become a dad and you having become a mom, you both of you joining daddom and momdom, what, you think that thus nullifies all your ideological takes on gender? God, too daft to learn the basics. But, you know, probably, you know, just always acting their age and worrying about whether someone else is or is not acting their age, not just from the standpoint of parenthood, but from the standpoint of societal surveillance. This is the big, I'm going to tell you right now, this is the big difference between liberal and conservative humor. You know, in America, that Gutfeld guy on Fox News, like, oh, he's so good, he's so good. He's not. But, you know, it's been billed as conservative comedy. So in America, this liberal conservative thing takes on so many of these cultural kind of offshoots. One of them being comedy. Even comedy has a political compass in America. It's such a disgusting country. It's just for that reason alone. You know, it's not to be hated, but it is to be looked down upon. Because even its comedic sense has these partisan commentators kind of latched themselves onto. Ooh, Gutfeld, conservative comedy, see, conservative comedy works. No, it doesn't. You know why? It's because you all, in your effort to serve the species, you all are far more concerned as to whether you or others in society are acting their age or not. That's why you can even bear parenthood. The reason you can bear parenthood is because you buy into that whole acting one's age thing. You clearly do so. Look at Kavanaugh. What a square butt. In his heyday, when the culture tells you to be, in subtle ways, he was a party animal. But he's a complete unbearable square. And this, you know, studious, you know, person who looks into law at depth. Nerdy, but in his kind of prime, what was that? All the stories about him, you know, being a drinker and all that stuff. It's specifically at that time of their life when the culture tells you to be. So in these rambunctious ways, they act their age. And then certainly it makes them bear parenthood because they buy into the pretension of it. It cuts them off from individuality, right? What is kind of one of the, if we're going to call it liberal comedy, what is one of the underpinnings of liberal comedy is it recognizes how farcical it is to believe that there's an age according to which you ought to act. It nullifies individuality. Those who buy into it, that's why they have a drabby nature to them. They believe it's very important as parents, but then even before, there's something to the psyche. The psyche is far more woven to the species. You cannot serve the species effectively if you don't believe into this pretense and farce of acting one's age. It kind of makes you a more moral person. Think about the other ones. Like they often do have this party going past, but then it's time to grow up. And so they become an extreme square. They were like extreme partiers when the culture tells you to be, late teens, early 20s, and then they become these extreme squares. They believe in acting your age. That's why they have all these pressures. The pressure to settle down, the pressure to go out and slay, the pressure to, it's all age accordant. It's why if there is such a thing as conservative comedy, it's why it fails. It always has to tap dance around the main point is that they're deluded. They believe in such a silly cultural artifact that you ought to act your age. Until they get past that, what's called liberal comedy in America will always kick the shit out of what's called conservative comedy in America. You literally believe you're being wiser by acting your age. It de-individuates you, my man. But yeah, this started out pointing out that they believe there's this gender ideology, and they should just call it transgender ideology, because you all have a gender ideology. You know, you believe gentlemen should be gentlemanly and ladies should be, you know, whatever, luscious while they still can, so they can bear more offspring. So I bet you made yourself as luscious as you possibly could while you could, like Kim still endeavors to do by being jelly of Kanye's new bitch. There, I'll throw it in here too. Oh, Kim's jelly. I'm like reverse Paris Hilton now every now and then. I do one of these segments because I read these tabloids. I do one of these segments about the Kims and the baby needs daddy Britneys. Okay, I'm done.
Deterrence capability.
Oh, also, please, August, if you make a video of this, put this at the very front.
Yeah, I need an August to bark orders at. An August who does my work for me. The way he does.
If you're watching.
See, he's got an August guy who does his editing. I need that.
Oh, also, please, August, if you make a video of this, put this at the very front. Please, if you're watching this and you hate me and you come to watch me cope and seethe or whatever because you think that I got destroyed in this debate, please remember all the times that you and your favorite content creators talk about how horrible smug debate bros are and people that scream over each other and engage in debate pedophilia and debate pervertry, and then look and see how all of your favorite content creators, and you yourself probably, are now championing Norm, engaging in the most bad faith, most disgusting, most debate pedophilia fucking tactics that have ever been seen in a 5-hour debate on the entire...
It's so true. It's not debate bros. It's debate old farts.
History they read, okay? Please keep in mind the double standard. I know they won't actually give a fuck, but like, oh my god.
Yeah, they won't because you're not dressed snappy and your hair's not done up. And that's why they think they can get away with it. That's all it is.
Roused for the next 5 hours or 2.5 hours because I did double speed until I looked the hilarity of your obvious contempt for the lack of intellectual rigor that has to be brought to the debate.
It plays with so many people because he's not dressed fancy and his hair's not done up. That's why it played. They don't even know it. They think it's like, yes, because he doesn't have the credentials that, well, neither, what does he call him, Finkeldick? That neither does the Finkeldick have. Finkeldick is a pop historian. But it plays well because he's just, and people don't even know what it is, but it's because he's not dressed nice. That's a thirsty duck.
Hey, that was surprisingly easy. Why, I bet a kid thinking I was a role model and wanting to imitate my behavior could easily steal sodas from a vending machine, too. Do it! Do it now, kids! Stick it to the man!
Based and soda pilled. Ah, yes, of course. So it drags us down back in the day because we saw the doll. You know, you have to wait till like 1 a.m. to watch this stuff. And so like on a school night, you got to wait till 1 a.m. to watch this stuff because it's the censors, you know, but no one cares about that. So many times, like, why are all the good stuff? Why does all the good stuff come on so late? It's because the censor notes. And Corny thinks he has to read it too. Watch. Even someone as wise as Corny plays along.
But of course, that would be wrong.
No, you don't have to read it. You don't have to read it.
But of course, that would be wrong.
It's like story of my life. It's like...
But of course...
And now it's just like all the stuff I can't do on YouTube. Or I can, and I do on YouTube, but it either full-blown blocks the video or it just shadows it into oblivion.
But of course, that would be wrong.
That would be wrong, that I'm shadowed to oblivion. I agree, Corny. It's the Jonathan Haidt song. The Jonathan Haidt song, At the Risk of Incurring Copyright. This is old. At the risk of incurring... Well, I always say that, but then I say, no, I shan't risk copyright. Well, here I shall risk copyright. Because it's the Jonathan Haidt song. It's just, he just so overlooks the perks, you know. There's perks for certain ones, and then there's drawbacks for others in terms of the youth and drawbacks. I don't care if it's lopsided. You know, small L liberal society points to, you know, small L liberal society bona fides and, you know, virtues. But then it's like, oh, because, you know, some are worsened in terms of youth from the telephone, by the iPhone, the smartphone. You know, the ones who are boosted by it, fuck them, we'll just ban it. How about we just ban you, Jonathan? Yeah. In the classroom. Do it in the classroom, kids. Stick it to the man. Keep bringing that phone in. Like Duckman said with the vending machine theft. Do it. Do it now, kids. Stick it to the man. Yeah. Disease. Please don't copyright strike this. It's fair motherfucking use. I'm using it to do it just see, Haidt's not worth a serious, proper kind of... No, Haidt's worth debunking through a song. Not debunking, fine. His heart is in the right place. His heart is in the right place, but it's not a small L liberal move. You know, your rights don't start at 18. That's just the line we have to draw. That's just the fucking line we have to draw, because we gotta draw a line somewhere. Sometimes it's 18, sometimes it's 21, but there's nothing substantive about that line. And to ban the phone because, you know, he thinks his research shows that some are worsened. Well, but barely anyone is benefited, right? Does he talk about the benefits? Does he talk about those who truly hate the Volk? I don't think he does. He wants to benefit the Volkish. He wants to benefit the Volkish children at the expense of the potential counterfactual geniuses. Bad Haidt. Very bad man. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt. Anti-smartphone hysteria, folks. Heart in the right place, but, you know, no, it's not a raw numbers game. I don't care. It probably is the case. There's a lot of evidence, you know, more often than not, it drags the youth down, the smartphone stuff. The youth are too comparative. But then why don't you, Mr. Haidt, why don't you give a tongue lashing to the celebs who make them, who egg that kind of thing on? Why don't you give a tongue lashing to ass women who eggs that kind of thing on? And then people commit suicide because, you know, they're not as luscious as ass women. Notably, very young girls commit suicide because they're not as luscious as ass women. Jonathan Haidt, oh, let's ban smartphones from classroom. No, how about you just give tongue lashing to ass women and all this BBL hijink stuff and other kinds of 6 hours per day in the gym working on ass, sculpting the ass. Yeah, go after individuals who indulge that. Don't go after the fucking smartphone and ruin the non-Volkish kids who need space from their, you know, the banes of their proximity, their physical proximity. I'm done. You know, I just have to say, and while you're there, you read the stupid tabloids sometimes. You know, I mean, you're really when you're really out of it, but you just can't quite fall asleep, and you can't read the heavy stuff. So while you're there, you just might as well read the tabloids. And why do I call her ass woman? It's because she's more bamboo than woman. Kim is. Because, while you're there, you read the stupid tabloids, and so the tabloids say, and she just can't contain it to the point where it's in the tabloids. That's why she's more bamboo than woman. Ass woman is Kim. She's jelly of Kanye's new younger bitch. It's like she can't contain it, and I know about it. Because while I'm there, I might as well read the tabloids if I have time. And so, yes, this is the Kim is more bamboo than woman. Keep it nice and short, to the point. She's jelly, the Kanye's new bitches. nice and firmer, we might say. Nice and more luscious. And thus, Kim turns out thirsty. We interrupt this epic program to bring you a special news bulletin. I think you know what it is. But this was supposed to be a very lighthearted, by my standards, program, right? And it was, and it will resume being. But right here is where I just had to, I guess I had to make a liar out of myself and go past the 11th. Right here, I'm going to insert it. And then we resume to, 11th and before. But I got to do something here because there's breaking. Where is it? Hang on, let me just... It's breaking. And yeah, this is just me kind of trying to be a survivalist and trying to shield myself. They're coming. The world's coming to an end. I gotta shield myself. So yeah, I'm just LARPing as a crazy person. But it's kind of, apropos for the kind of video it is. But yeah, I wanted just this to be a lighthearted video where I insult a lot of people. But, it's not a lighthearted... Oh, God, I shouldn't have done this. This is just too much. God, look at this. But anyway, it's breaking. But it'll be lighthearted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, all things assassination attempt are going in the video after. It's now the afternoon of the 14th. Gosh, we know what happened on the 13th, don't we? It's the kind of thing that invigorates this kind of thing. But, that's a meme. But this is meant to just turbocharge some tweets from what's going to be in the next video. Because I walked all the way back home. I walked for a good 3 hours this morning. And I was after reading a bunch of twats at work. Of course it was going to be twats. Of course it was going to be extra twatty, extra spicy twatty. Because they've been unnerved, right? And now a lot of the next video, though it will be about the assassination attempt and roundly condemning it, it's also going to be about Destiny. Because Destiny got into the drama of all dramas. I think it's the drama of the century. In terms of just how much hostility. It's so weird being at work. Because I read Twatter and it's so much hostility. I've kind of steeped in hostility, having been from Eastern Europe. But Twatter, it's God, this is next levels of hostility. And people always trying to, twist knives and stuff at each other. And especially some of the Destiny stuff. But, a lot of the video was a lot of my, rants as I'm walking back and navigating traffic. Though I condemn the assassination attempts, I end up making it about this. But yeah, that's just one of the memes. But let's plow through some of these twats that inspired my rants. Conservatives, when the guy they wildly support who tried to lead an insurrection against the government and then was granted absolute criminal immunity to save him from his federal cases, gets shot at. Right, so Destiny was very spicy. He was among the spicy twatterers. And so I'm just going to plow, because I don't want to, in that video, what I just ranted for hours about this stuff. I've got a bunch of other shit. It's not just Manchild debunks societal norms that needs to go first. It's a bunch of other things were supposed to be really speedily done. But no, I complicated my life because I read all this stuff. I was on Twatter. And I didn't realize how full of piss and vinegar I had left the work at. How full of piss and vinegar from this. It's next level hostility, but then I have to do tasks and be nice to my colleagues. It's I can't navigate this. I'm in this ultra hostile cerebral space, and then everyone at work is kind of professional and nice to each other. It's such a mind fuck. Yeah, so he kind of wants to put the onus on them, but it's just do what's right, Destiny. Don't think about the right thing from a game theoretic standpoint. Then you're not just doing ethics clean. then you're doing ethics plus, what, some version of, forward-looking control freakery, aka consequentialism, like a practical consequentialism. No, don't be game theoretical about it. Just condemn it regardless of what, the reprobates do. They're reprobates. Be better than them. Don't take it game theoretically. They almost want you on their level. They swarm over you when you go on their level. Because they can't see what kind of level. They're a fish that don't know they're wet. That's what they are. So when they see you're kind of moistening yourself, they're going to swarm you and be really sanctimonious and just nauseating from the outside perspective. You guys in America, I'm the outsider, but you guys in America, it's like, it's not so much ideological and cultural rift. You guys just don't know how to make arguments or how to steelman oppositions, and that just perpetuates the, two-sided bad faithing thing. Because you guys just ape the antics of the pundits and the alt media pundits that I guess brought you to the dance. Every commenter, everyone's just, it's so pathetic. Like your grandfathers and even great-grandfathers had political differences. Like had they had the internet when they were seasoned thinkers, they wouldn't have conducted themselves in all these, pro-reprobate ways. I'm sorry to say pro-reprobate ways, but Destiny's wrong too. Destiny should have been the gracious one, but he wasn't. No, he wasn't. And I'm reading all this crap at work, and then I ranted about it. I got high, and I had such a negative high. I don't think I'd ever had more of a negative high than the negative high I had before I started pressing record as I was walking back home. Just that image of Trump's grazed ear, the martyr's ear having been martyred. It's like, I'm just seeing this country that, cannot recognize the difference between affective polarization and ideological polarization. It's the same. But all the splits aren't the true splits too. They can't even recognize that. The stupid splits James Lindsay feeds. I go off on James Lindsay. I go off on Christopher Rufo. I go off on the stupid guy who did the Wire, Daily Wire, gender, what is a woman documentary. I go off on them a lot. Because they're okay. They're okay up to and including Trump. They're okay finding common cause with peak delusion. Like this is peak delusion and dangerous. And this is peak delusion and likewise. It's just I'm not American, so I can afford to be more aloof about it. Because our cons, whatever you might say about them, our Canadian cons, well, they're more potty trained than this. They're epic. I love our cons. It's just they're not going to give me UBI. They're not going to give me UBI. The libs will give me UBI, but there's a lot wrong with the libs. There's a David Frum segment coming up. David Frum nails what's wrong with, the liberal Canadian establishment, the Liberal Party, Trudeau and all that stuff. But that's later. But it's like, yeah, Trudeau's the worst PM of our lifetime. So I kind of, I feel for our local, Canadian cons. I feel for them. Worst PM of all time, and he's from the Liberal Party. The party needs to be destroyed. See, I can say it. Why can't you guys say it too? Your takeover is not doing the GOP any good. And like all your grandparents, whether you're blue or red, all your grandparents, they knew how to settle their differences in civil ways. I guess it was easier because they didn't have the internet. The internet is kind of the overexposure of the worst possible thing. So everyone just kind of forgets the steel man, and everyone forgets that it's about the positions, right? The person's identity is distinct from the path they took to reach their conclusion on the stance itself. So there's three things. You all want to just fuse, especially you MAGAs. You all just want to fuse everything into one thing because you want to believe like your political enemies are satanic. You guys are really stupid. And as Destiny would say, unhinged. You guys are unhinged. And you drive a lot of, I'm sorry to say, you drive a lot of MAGA. Evangelical zeal and other kinds of zeal. Just a lot of religious zeal. People don't have to put up with that. How I explain, and what I just recorded this morning, man, I had this horrible high because I just hate seeing this country not able to talk to itself because it just leans into, partisan comfort zone cleavage, partisan cleavage is just killed my high. That image just killed my fucking high. Kind of Trump the hero killed my high. A reasonable middle ground implies a reasonable party on both sides of the conversation. Right now, there aren't two reasonable parties in America. So he's going off on Lauren. Lauren was just this genetic, I want to be trad, I want to be trad, I want to be trad wife. But maybe I don't want to be trad wife anymore. Maybe I want to be more autonomous. autonomous Dane, navigated TradCon online spaces, and then realized ultimately, maybe I want to be more autonomous. But if other dames want to be submissive little, what's the stupid little show called? There's a stupid show. You know, the Netflix show about how Dane was repressed. What is that stupid show? I forget its name. It's probably one of like dozens of, you know, shows that do the retro. It was bad for women in the retro. It's another Mad Men, but it's like Mad Men even before into retro. I'll condemn it once Republicans condemn the insurrection. So I don't think I'll include any of these tweets in the visuals when I'm actually doing that next video, because I don't want the visuals to distract from what I'm saying in the next video. Like, I'm not jokey in the next video, guys. I'm very jokey here. This is Manchild debunks societal norms. And it's gonna resume being jokey when I finish this segment. This is just the fault. Like, there was an assassination attempt on Trump yesterday. I'm still against learning from dramatic events, but like, this is about as close as we should get. And we should learn from what people say and how they interact with each other. And this is all just, everyone just digging in their heels. So like, how much longer can the country dig in its heels against its own members, right? Oh yeah, yeah. How much can a country keep doing this? How many times is, like, just say the MSM, like how many elections in a row? Because you had 2016 was existential. You had the midterms 2018 existential. You had 2020, of course, existential. You had 2022 existential. How many of these elections, mid or, you know, the big ones, like, how many times are you with a straight face going to tell your, you know, viewers and whatnot, and your, you know, door knockers, whatnot, that it's existential? Like, you can't keep doing this. This has to change. It's hard to just have two countries because so many of the distinctions are, like, people don't think about their positions. And so it's not like North versus South, right? It's whether you live in the city or whether you live in the rural parts of the country. So like lifestyle predicts for so much of what people believe politically in America, like the kind of lifestyle you have, whether it's a city lifestyle or, so it's nothing to do with like actually sitting down and being a deliberative kind of proper epistemic operator. It's nothing to do with that. It's just matters of will predominate. Like, so you can't even split the country. It's city folk versus rural folk. That's essentially what it is. And the rural folk having, you know, numbers advantage, not a numbers advantage, but a, you know, schemery electoral college advantage. Watch me in 2012 go off on the electoral college. I remember some facts. I remember some electoral facts about American history in that video. It's crazy how the, quote, facts don't care about your feelings crowd is suddenly so invested in how a picture makes them feel. It is a pretty epic picture, though. I mean, you gotta give the devil his due. It's an epic picture, and I hate to, because he's not funny. They're wrong to say that he's funny. But how he took that bullet and how he, like, yeah, I can see why it makes them feel that way. It just kind of makes me go, God, like, what would Biden have done? Biden would have shriveled up. You have no obligation to support anti-democratic dictators in a democratic country. We didn't vote for independence. So yeah, he talks about the other examples, you know, what are they called? You know, the 1776. What was 1776 about? Oh yeah, it was about political violence. What are you guys talking about? Your whole mythos and, you know, country folklore is about political violence, breaking away from the king. You have no obligation to, okay, so I read that, so. Oh, that's not how principles work. But where does he go off on that hacky trigonometry guy? That was like, oh yeah, this was the best. What a great conspiracy you've got there. God, I gotta move to the other part where he really insults him. Oh God, this guy. God, it's not just that he always likes his suits, it's that he likes his suits tightly fitted. It's like, it's okay to always be in a suit, but like, at least if it's, you know, a little baggy or something, like your body has room to, like this man, he doesn't like his body to have room to breathe. Oh, CNN, no, I like my tight suits. No, fuck CNN. Well, CNN likes their suits too. Why am I trying to read this through the phone? I'm not doing myself any favors. It was a breaking news headline because no one knew immediately what happened, you fucking dolt. See, it's easier if I just don't read from the phone. TDS is what the intellectually bankrupt screech when their media star cash cow is attacked by anyone with a shred of common sense. And yeah, it goes off on this trigonometry hacky people. you're Constantine, you're more reactionary than anything, I'm sorry to say, even though you're tonally appropriate, but your takes are more reactionary than anything. Donald Trump incited an insurrection. Okay, so we know all about that. Yeah, he's saying the onus is on MAGA before he does what he needs to do, just because he's being game theoretic. Oh no, I won't get to sit on another show where you moderate by invoking your Ukrainian family to lie about the state of the war in order to shill fucking Russian talking points. You're actual human trash. It's like, I'm reading this at work, and then I have to go into these polite modes because I have to be professional. It's such a Twilight thing. You're a fucking hack. Did you not see a crowd of people chanting "Hang Pence"? Yeah, they just want to whitewash so much of what the naughtiest of them do. It's just, you guys can't, MAGAs, you have to own it and apologize for it if there are any decent of you left. You can't do blah, blah, blah all the time. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Donald Trump's telling the crowd of people today, okay, so we know what he said. TDS is what the intellectual, okay, that's, yeah, but they just want to do blah, 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 as in something, something, left, something, something, left. That's all. That's what I mean by blah, blah, blah. Something, something, left. You know, how many millions of people are you talking about when you say left? You never answer these questions. Right after you tell me we're in Article 2, okay, so it's the legal stuff. Destiny likes his legal arguments. I don't really care about those. Thread has been walking this country off a cliff for years. While Trump was trying to dismantle the country, you fucking retards cried about trans people and woke schools. Please go get drafted. Yeah, and even if you want to cry about the trans people, but then, you know, at least target the point I made at some point. Don't pretend it's all social contagion. You know, we got to do something about these kids. These kids deserve a kind of, you know, medical intervention. The ones who aren't afflicted by the social contagion element. You know, it's a mastectomy. Like if a woman has a mastectomy, she loses her tit, and now she feels like an incomplete person. So sometimes that's the trans kid. Sometimes it's a bullshit other things trying to fit in. Other times that's the trans kid. Grandfathers and even great grandfathers had political differences. Had they had the internet when they were seasoned thinkers, they wouldn't have conducted themselves in all these, arguably, you know, pro-reprobate. What's important is that the internet wasn't around, so all we have is the historical record as we can see it, and they would have, you know, things get heated, right? But things don't get outright brutish. Ways, I'm sorry to say, pro-reprobate ways, but yeah. Destiny's wrong too. Destiny should have been the gracious one, but he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Hashtag he didn't rise above hate. And I'm reading all this crap at work, and then I make a Big Mike joke. I'm sorry. I make a Big Mike joke when I mention, you know, the whole rise above hate thing. No, it's Michelle Obama. I shouldn't, but I'll keep that joke in the next video where I just unleash on all this stuff. But I made a Big Mike joke. I just, you know, I mean well. It's just, things are funny, but I mean well. I got high, and maybe someone here doesn't know who Big Mike is. Did I just turn my volume down? Big Mike, there's this conspiracy theory. Yeah, I turned the volume off. There's this conspiracy theory that, you know, Michelle Obama is actually a man and that Obama is gay. So that's the kind of the Big Mike joke. I don't actually believe that. I kind of just like to say Big Mike. So that's in the next video. I'll keep the joke in. Is this where it is? Yay! High? I don't think I've ever had more of a negative high than the negative high I had before I started pressing record as I was walking back home. Yeah. Just that image of Trump's grazed ear. But also the martyr's ear having been martyred. But also at that specific time, as I was thinking about that, these two crows would not leave me alone. I was followed for blocks, and it was close call after close call. They must have had their young. Just coinciding with me having just the Trump image, the glorious, you know, picture of the century image, that coincided with these two crows who would just not leave me alone because they thought I was a threat. I posed a threat to their stupid offspring because they've begotten, because they're crows. And they can't think better of it. But then they also chase me and ruin my fucking high, coinciding with me thinking about that god-awful, but, you know, must be admitted, glorious Trump image. Trump, the man who prevails. Trump, the man who prevails. You know. No, I believe they ought to be done away with, these would-be theocrats. I believe they ought to be done away with. But they ought to be done away with democratically. If you guys can't change the way the Electoral College functions through reforms, then even if you guys have the majority, it doesn't matter. If they beat you in the Electoral College, as much as salt as this involves for me, seeing theocrats, you know, gain control in a country where, you know, it would have been unthought of like 40 years ago. Like even during the Soviet era, it would have been unthought of the theocrats would come to the fore. It may happen in 2024, so it's interesting because we don't have this problem here. Western Europe doesn't have this problem, so it's just so, you know, it's a kind of political and civic culture shock for me to see that this is not enough for so many of these, I guess, you know, cement-headed, independent and otherwise undecided voters, that like the religious story just doesn't fully, you know, seal the deal for them. You know, so, but I'm kind of, this picture, I'm kind of getting high, realizing like, yeah, Trump's in the bag, and Trump's got it in the bag now. But it's like, but that means Christo, what is the other thing? Manifest destiny, but also kind of Christo. Yeah, there's another term for it. It's not nationalism. It's a Christo kind of thing. They're Christo wankers, and they're gonna be calling the shots because this, you know, because Nimrod hasn't stepped down. I hope I should have checked headlines before I started recording this. Nimrod hasn't stepped down, you know, and this guy's ears got grazed. And I'm thinking about it all, and I'm like, no, it's not really about that guy himself. It's who he's willing to find common cause with. It's these absolutely delusional Christians. And that kind of sucks. And then, you know, the crows are chasing me or thinking that, you know, they're coming very close. And they're making all those noises. Sometimes you can hear them. But that's the next video. But yeah. Come on, Americans. Understand that theocracy just is the worst, right? This is kind of the takeaway here. Just understand that theocracy just is the worst. It's got no place. Whatever, you know, Democrats should get a better candidate. Democrats suck. Democrats suck a lot, right? But you Americans who are kind of, you know, these, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, God, where else? I listen to this, you know, polling thing too much. I should be able to rattle off all the, you know, swing stuff. You know, New Hampshire, even though it's Bernie's, you know, so who knows what's going to happen in New Hampshire? Because it's about those bread and butter issues. But come on, you Americans in these swingy places. You need to just come to understand. Theocracy just is worse. You know, Democrats don't want to eat your babies. Democrats probably want to tax the most financially successful of you somewhat higher. And, you know, whatever. Democrats don't want open borders, not the average blue voter. Democrats just want to give these, you know, runaways a fair shot. And yeah, that's, you know, that's just causing all kinds of problems. But Democrats don't want the median Democrat. Come on. They don't want open borders. They just don't want to send the runaways back. But like, there's a lot of runaways. But the Democrats should curb, you know, the legal immigration influx. That's where the Democrats do fail. And the other kinds of, you know, libertarians. Oh, God, how many libertarian arguments? Just these YouTube philosophers. Oh, debunking each objection to immigration. Debunking each objection to immigration. Yeah, so these people think like, no, they're like philosophical types. They think mass immigration ain't no problem. But, you know, I get it. It's frustrating. You know, you can't be accentist in a humoristic way even. Because, you know, it's, you know, synonymous with racism, even though it's got nothing to do with race. But, you know, I get it. All kinds of frustrations. You know, DEI kills meritocracy. But, you know, we didn't really have a meritocracy. We had a lot of nepotism and a legacy. We can say we had an aspirational meritocracy. And DEI is kind of killing off some of those aspirational vibes. But you guys don't think so, because you guys think like formal equal opportunity is the whole story. You don't get there's this whole other substantive equal opportunity part of the pie. You guys just don't get that. A lot of you Americans who value hard work, but like, come on, just understand. You know, he ain't no martyr. The picture looks cool, but he ain't no martyr. And it's theocrats. The cost is theocrats. And just other very Volky people. Gender ideology. Oh, we love the biggest of big chivalries, but we don't have a gender ideology. Yeah, you do. You believe men are gender serfs and women are their lordship. And boy, how I go off on that, but that's future videos. But yeah, it's theocrats and it's these, you know, especially male gender serfs. It's all about the madame and you know, the species. So this is not a live stream. This is his explanation. He's attempted an explanation as to why this time InfoWars truly will be shut down forever. But he's still hosting. But it's going to be the last broadcast. They sent people over. It's this cock and bull story, but he's... How long is it? Why can't I bring up the timeline when I mouse over the bottom? God, you gotta exit full screen to see the timeline. To see the, not even the timeline, just the... How many minutes? 39 minutes. It's borderline unintelligible.
So this is just...
But there's a few things I want to play because it's well played on his part.
People think it's open season on me. They think, well, Jones is attacked by the deep state. We can do whatever we want. We won't get in trouble for it. Well, you get in trouble with me. So you big tough guy, push people around. Well, you just ran into somebody that doesn't back down. I'm real nice for the overall good. See, they take me taking abuse. And so this guy's a pussy. I mean, he'll sit there and take me. Yeah, I'll take abuse like a mother hen sitting on her chicks when the weasel's drinking its blood because she knows it's saving them.
Nice. It's almost like a shop chapter.
So I've been sitting there with the weasel literally sucking my blood.
Nice.
All right, well, it's all right. Because I'm getting the transmission out, not spending our time on...
Oh, you're all right, Alex. You're all right after all.
Not telling you about the dirty tricks, not telling you about all the attacks.
Not talking about you. You talk about...
Like,
did he just say not talk about me? He talks about himself all the time, but I gotta exit full screen to go back. You talk about yourself more than I talk about you.
Again, I'm real nice for the overall good. See, they take me taking abuse. And so this guy's a pussy. I mean, he'll sit there and take me... Yeah, I'll take abuse like a mother hen sitting on her chicks when the weasel's drinking its blood because she knows it's saving them. Yeah, I'll take abuse like a mother hen sitting on her chicks when the weasel's drinking its blood because she knows it's saving them. So I've been sitting there with the weasel literally sucking my blood.
Nice.
All right, well, it's all right. Because I'm getting the transmission out.
In the last video, I say Ezra is working overtime. There's yet another brand new podcast. He's brought this guest on. It's all about Kamala, right? But if Kamala's smart, they won't make this point. I'm halfway in. But if Kamala's smart, this is what she does. She comes out and she gives a enough about my identity speech. She says this interspersed throughout the speech, and she gives the right kinds of reasons, because this is something both sides need to hear. Kamala needs to have that big moment where she breaks from the dreamy part of the party and when she becomes a realist and here an electoral realist. The best way for her to do that, if she's smart or if she's just got smart handlers. I don't believe she does. Her handlers are the problem, but the kind of speech she needs to give, the big takeaway in the headlines the next day is, Kamala Harris, enough about my identity. It's something both sides need to hear. It'll get all the independents more likely to vote for her. She says it throughout the speech, interspersed. It's almost like a, it's almost like a State of the Union-like speech, but it's her kind of coming onto the scene party. She's ready to arrive at the scene because this Nimrod needs to step down. And so yet another podcast by Ezra. Ezra gets it. God bless Ezra. His soul is really into this. This is a fourth podcast now. Fourth fucking podcast since the disastrous debate. Bless Ezra. His soul is into this. He really needs this to go. The way of the DNC. And so he's hosting this person, but will they make the point? For Kamala to have a snowball's chance in hell, she needs to give that big speech. It was kind of Bill Clinton's Sister Soldier moment. Kamala Harris's Sister Soldier moment needs to be a speech where all the headlines the next day, it reads, Kamala Harris, enough about my identity. It's not about her. She can talk about how the concerns of the country are far bigger than the petty concerns over her identity. First ever blah, blah, blah. Who gives a fuck? If Kamala comes out and literally says, who gives a fuck? She's won it. I'll make that 5 podcasts now since the debate. And he's also doing, his appearances elsewhere on the Bulwark. Ezra is just in workhorse mode. But let's do a little bit of the guest from the Kamala. Is Kamala Harris underrated? Let's do a bit of the guest here. Because, Kamala has to mean it. What I just said, she gives the anti-identitarian. Kamala has her anti-identitarian moment. She has to mean it or else it'll not be authentic because, they spend some time in this one talking about, the inauthenticity. They're saying she's authentic one-on-one, but on the big stage, talking to the crowd, no, it all comes off as insincere.
She tries to reshape herself, and that's why, let's talk about the question of authenticity. That's something that I think is really fraught often with racist and quite often sexist stereotypes, things like...
Oh, geez, did I do that? Did I just cue it up before the guest says the dumbest possible thing? I'm afraid I did. I'm afraid I'm just going to tell on myself. Yeah, so Ezra, maybe you just got to, instead of being such a workhorse, maybe you also just got to get guests who don't say stuff like this. And if they do believe stuff like this, they have they have to show me some indication that like they understand what a loaded term it is and not just kind of just say it cavalierly and just move on. It's a loaded term. No, you don't have to be racist or sexist to believe that she's just bad on the big stage.
That the voters really did pick up on something about Kamala Harris that just felt
okay. So like the guest gets it that there's something, but then at the same time there's also these, undertones of racist, sexist,
inauthentic when she spoke. I think it was David Axelrod.
I didn't mishear it. The guest said it.
Sorry,
I'll replay it.
Voters with racist and quite often sexist stereotypes, things like.
So is it more racist than sexist, or the other way? How is it?
That the voters really did pick up on something about Kamala Harris that just felt inauthentic when she spoke. I think it was David Axelrod.
Yeah, that's the whole story. Don't do the stuff before. Guest. Where's the guest name? Dana Goodyear. Yeah, there we go. That's the guest name. So there. Sometimes I don't announce who the guest is. This time I do. Consider yourselves lucky. The real danger within the Democratic Party. Fundamental crack up. Well, it might need it, right? It needs a fundamental crack up. Not exactly good timing for it, but what are you gonna do, right? It's just you, Ezra. I want you to know that you're too good for all this. I'm sorry you don't know it, but I want you to know that if you just apply that noggin in the way it's supposed to be applied, not for these. You think you have party ends. Ezra, come on. You don't have party ends, first and foremost. Ezra, you're supposed to be like me. You're supposed to know. You're supposed to be emancipated from the party ends. And you're supposed to realize that you have just these inquisitive ends, first and foremost. Be here to just, if you're going to do all this work, then at least, have it be for some more nobler ends as opposed to everything. It's because those damn New York Times. It's the New York Times that drag you down. And you chose that too, Ezra. Didn't you choose the New York Times? You didn't have to leave Vox. No, you chose your life at the Times. I'm sure it compensates you far more handsomely, right? But then you gotta host Dana, whatever, and all these other ones. I guess you didn't host many decent people at Vox, but I don't know. I'm guessing you had less of a straitjacket on you at Vox because you were the co-founder. But then you chose the New York Times, Ezra. Why did you choose the New York Times? Ezra, don't you understand the New York Times is at least in part why the Democratic Party is in shambles the way it is? It's the New York Times to, the White House kind of pipeline. And all these people just, they just played so much identity politics, Ezra. They played it's not just they played identity politics here and there. The reason the Dems don't have this in the bag is because of outfits like New York Times that encouraged so many people of color to play so much identity politics, not just here and there. And so what do the Christo crazies do? The Christo fascists, as you might call them? The Christian nationalists? Well, they're going to play so much identity politics. We're going to play so much identity politics too. So yeah, it's those two towers now. That's all it is. But Ezra, you could have stayed away from the New York. You could have just stayed at Vox or just, done something even better than Vox. But no, you insisted. The New York Times wasn't going to soil you. I'm afraid the New York Times has soiled you like it soils everything it touches.
Story who just said, voters can pick up on that when it doesn't feel. Honesty is not even the right word, I think. Telling a lie about your record or something, but just misrepresenting.
It's just the stupid handlers who tell her that you gotta lick your finger and check a gajillion ways which way the wind is blowing every day. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. Just be yourself, right? Like the rainbow thing said. It's important to be yourself. Why should that not extend to politicians? You know why that doesn't extend to politicians? It's because people really want to be glad-handed and they really want their stupid little ugly babies to be kissed and told how non-ugly they are. That's why the politicians are baby kissers and glad-handers. It's because that's what the people want. But the people are too stupid to realize that's what they want. Their precious vanity is so easily insulted, especially the MAGAs. Oh, God. You just tell the MAGAs, maybe you guys got to think a little harder. It's like, oh, God, you're telling us you think a little harder. It's like, yeah, you guys, the truth is you got to think a lot harder than you've been thinking. But they're like, oh. Oh, I found the best way to summarize culture, or at least cultural criticism. there's these people who it's like, I'm a cultural critic. So there's the whole cultural criticism as a formal thing. I found the best way to summarize that. You know, it can be informal too, but the cultural critics are people who just want to be misanthropes, but they don't have the balls. And so they make it out to be the culture. The culture is the culprit. So they criticize the culture. But something that is cultural is something that is just what people do, right? So if you hate the culture, you just hate what the people do. But you can't use terms like Volk because you're too sophisticated to use Volk derisively, the way that derisive no-avail guy always uses Volk, you know, because you're a cultural critic and it's probably a profession or something, some kind of a shtick. Maybe you're an influencer as a cultural critic, but you don't go in on the misanthrope thing, and you don't use terms like Volk derisively, because to you it's about this vague culture thing. When it's it's you just hate people, because culture is just what the people do. So how about you just come out of the closet, all you cultural critics, just come out of the misanthrope closet. Don't be such pussies. Actually, it's about snobs in general, that last thing I recorded. It's about snobs in general, not just cultural critics. Snobs are not misanthropes as often as you would think them to be, because even snobs need to maintain something of a big enough circle of their own so they can't be full-on misanthropes. It kind of targets too wide. You know, the same thing with like political partisans. You know, they can't because then it's too wide, and to be partisan, you got to need a big enough chunk of the population that you identify with when you really get emotional about it. So, you know, when I said cultural critics, that's just a particular strand of snobbery. You can be informally a snob, formally many ways. So it definitely encompasses, you know, the partisans. The partisanship is a kind of snobbery, kind of political snobbery, when you just can't see that it's about, you know, about the chain of reasoning more so than it is about, you know, the policy you end up on. When you know, characterize opponents the way you do, you shouldn't just characterize them negatively by that policy conclusion or some other kind of stance-based conclusion. Should be about, you know, like, how did they get there? But there's no categorization for the how did they get there. And so the people who don't see that, that's a kind of political snobbery, to either pretend to not see that or to be dull enough to not see that. Because all the categorization in politics, because it is very much a practical affair, politics, it's for the practical life, it needs to be based on the conclusions and not the chain before it. So yes, it applies to cultural critics are just one strand of snobbery. The unease with which you think this would apply to enough people that you would just go full Monty, misanthrope, but not be mean-spirited and not, you know, rejoice in anyone's suffering. You know, strictly speaking, I believe we have a moral obligation to not rejoice in anyone's suffering. Whether or not we do, it doesn't really matter, because we're a beast first and foremost. But being a beast doesn't preclude the kind of, you know, theoretic belief. This is a moral theoretic belief that I have, certainly. I think we have a positive obligation to not rejoice in anyone's suffering, anyone's, you know, extreme harm, however cashed out. They're undergoing a crisis. Even if they're your mortal foe, if you're morally upstanding, you won't rejoice in their suffering, right? I'm not saying I succeed at this. I'm given over to art. I'm given over to a lot of things, and some of those things are, you know, just rejoicing in others' suffering. But that's a kind of moral fault line. We shouldn't rejoice in anyone's suffering. We do because we're these bamboos. We're bamboos far more than we are these agents, irrational agents. Good way to summarize evopsych, right? Evopsych is that which concludes that the human being is far more bamboo than they are this agent. You know, especially free acting agents. Many of people, you know, all the way, you know, the kind of impressive intellectuals that are often quoted from, all the way up to and including the Enlightenment. Many of those people, what was their fatal mistake? One of their fatal mistakes was portraying the human as an agent first and foremost. We are not primarily agents. We are primarily bamboos, and just the 98-99% overlap with the chimp thing. That's very important if you understand biological implications of behavior. And so kind of evopsych is there to present some data for that. And so evopsych, good way to characterize it is we're not primarily agents, we're primarily beasts. And you know, maybe that's okay, but you know, to the extent that we want to protect freedom, we just understand that, freedom is just, it's not some autonomous thing, like in the Kantian sense, autonomous thing. No, it's just, there's a distinction between volitional and strained and ultimately coerced behavior, right? There's such a thing as volitional behavior. So we can say we value volitional behavior, even though we know it's not some metaphysical free will acting upon us. No, it's just our own. It's just how we were wound up. So we can still be concerned over freedom and all these other things, while understanding it's all strictly determined, because we can just understand that, volitional behavior feels better. It's one way to cash out how free or unfree is a society. Is you distinguish it from the concerns over justice, right? If freedom is its own end, you distinguish it from all these other concerns over welfare or justice, and you just tally up across all persons. You tally up in a kind of utilitarian manner, just the amount of volitional versus strained versus coerced acts. And behavior in general. You just tally it all up, and the less volitional and the more non-volitional, then the less free the society is. That's like, if you want freedom to be a completely independent thing, it doesn't mean it's always good, right? We constrain the volition of criminals. That's a good thing. So freedom is more a gray area. But people are very, they're very sneaky when they philosophize about freedom. They don't want to say, like, it's as if we don't constrain the freedom of criminals. We constrain the freedom of criminals, absolutely. Sometimes, the constraint is justified, sometimes it's not. But it's not about, freedom qua justice. Freedom is its own independent thing. Oh, and I guess I want to throw just yet another thing in here, because I've had this on the back burner for a while. Might as well do it now since I've just thrown so much in here. Is it not the case that with you, anytime you actually need hope, it's to offset something negative? Like, if there's nothing negative, you won't even, like, the idea that hope will even be a thing that you're going to have in your life, like hope for the future, hope for something particular. No, hope is only there. It only feels like you need something to hope for in order to offset a negative. I think this is one area, psychologically speaking, where, that whole thing about frustrationism, I don't think frustrationism is true top to bottom. Like, any positive is just offsetting a negative. But I think specifically the need for hope, I wonder if the research bears me out, but I'm too lazy to do research, so I'm just going to kind of mention it here. I wonder if the research bears out that hope is always something that is an offset to something negative. I would have to assume so. I can't think of a single time where I was perfectly content with the status quo, and yet, despite that, I still needed hope. No. Hope was always after some discontent.
That's something that I think is really fraught often with racist and quite often sexist.
Oh, wait a minute. Is it because she cackles? And the guest had too much grace to say, it's the cackler. Kamala as the cackler. I'm not going to do it, but maybe I should do it. But you know how she cackles? Maybe that's what the guest means by that. You say it's the cackling thing. No, the cackling thing is totally fair game. You guys can convert the people who mock her for that, or who just can't stand her for that. Nails on a chalkboard style cackler. You guys can't convert that into racist, sexist, blah, blah, blah. No, that's just a defect. That's just a, like even a man, straight man could cackle. It'd be even worse. A straight man who cackles would have it even rougher than, any type of woman who does so. So yeah, but see, when it's like the New York Times, like, no one even makes the point that I make right now. Everyone who's like within earshot of this, who's thinking of this, wouldn't think of it the way I just thought of it right now. But I just debunked it right now. But because it's the New York Times, it doesn't freaking matter.
Stereotypes things like
insularity. Well, there's a lot to choose from. It's another one of those, the gift that keeps on giving sites. Let's see.
I love good news. Love good news. I just love good news.
Oh my God. It's like being at work. Yeah, no, the video's too jam-packed. I have too much, but one day when I don't have a video that's as jam-packed, I could probably spend a half an hour or more at this site. Okay, just maybe one more. Dear Lord. There needs to be a post-traumatic work disorder, right? There needs to be a PTWD, because I suffer from post-traumatic work disorder when I hear this. Oh, okay, maybe two more.
And I highly recommend Lemonade by Beyonce.
Well, there you go. You've just alienated the no avail demo. You had it. I was going for you. I was saying you can do it. You can have the big anti-identitarian moment, but with this,
And I highly recommend Lemonade by Beyonce.
yeah, no. You recommend that which has been omni-recommended by every algorithmic and, record label scuzzy and all that kind of stuff. You just...
And I highly recommend Lemonade by Beyonce.
Listen to Bad Religion and Porcupine Tree, you dumb bitch. Wow, and they're just so petty about it. This Fuck Destiny account, I'm not going to spread the actual thing, I'll just do a screenshot, but this thing doc drops him and suggests things. Because, it's Fuck Destiny. Well, whatever high ground you might have had, doc dropping, it just feeds on itself, right? It just feeds on itself. It's like the itchy and scratchy meme, but the gun's getting bigger. Now you doc drop the guy. I'll say the guy and not the kid for once. But yeah, that's very bad, so... Trad was more fishy.
This is the easiest decision of all time. He's at 36% approval. When he won last time in 2020, remember, he barely won the Electoral College by about 44,000 votes in 3 swing states, which is...
I think you know who we're talking about.
It's the
Genk drops the truth bomb.
Microscopic lead. And at that point...
It's a Genky truth bomb. They don't happen often, so I want to play them, because it's a Genky truth bomb.
A 52%.
Such seldom things. Let me go back a bit.
And remember, he barely won the Electoral College by about 44,000 votes in 3 swing states, which is just a microscopic lead. And at that point, he had a 52% approval rating. Now he's at 36. I did the math on it. That's a 16-point difference.
See, Genk can do reality. Why don't you do that more often, Genk?
So the folks who look at the interview from last night and go, well, he survived.
Yeah.
He answered the questions.
Yeah.
That's not within a million miles of good enough.
Yeah, why don't you do that more?
He has to make up
Come
a
on.
16-point deficit.
Got it in you.
In that regard. And guys, if you follow politics, you know an incumbent.
God, but any topic where brown people are afflicted in some way, no, it's the will goes.
Under 50% is very likely to lose. Biden is under 40%. To my knowledge, no federal candidate in U.S. history that's an incumbent in an election year has ever won when they're in the 30s. So the opposition, I guess, that wants Biden to...
But Nimrod tells himself adversity stories, you understand? Nimrod says because he's overcome before, he'll overcome again. It's all about overcoming. Nimrod's pops had to overcome, and, Nimrod had stutter, and so it's like, oh, I overcame before, I can do it. It's like just this freaking... optimism plagues America in so many ways. They'll never know it, but it plagues their fucking president. Rose-tinted crap plagues even the president. Overcoming adversity, less deliberation, more inspiration. It plagues the country right up unto the president.
Stay in. Their main argument is Joe Biden is the most miraculous politician that anyone has ever seen. And he's going to rise from the ashes and not just stay stable, but make up 16 points in approval rating.
Okay, but now let's go back in time to a couple of months where Genk wasn't quite as reasonable. This is a couple of months ago when Genk wasn't quite as reasonable. Genk versus Shmuley. Oh, God.
Very ad hominem with the other guest when he hadn't on you.
I'm not going ad hominem. You cannot use a genocidal name.
You are. Let me go to Cenk.
Sorry.
Cenk, your response.
Yeah, look, Piers, I wasn't supposed to come on with this guy. I was supposed to come on with a different guest. I'm never coming on with him again. He's all he has is ad hominem. So you ask him about 21 to 25,000.
Are you really that afraid of
Let him speak, please, Rabbi
You say you're not going to...
Let him speak, please.
Come on, Cenk.
Let him speak.
Cenk, you ran for
Let him
president.
speak, please, Rabbi Shmuley.
Come on, you can't run.
Rabbi, let him speak. Cenk.
Okay.
It's only slightly worse than the typical kind of segment where they bring on, people to debate. It's only slightly worse and more juvenile, but it certainly helps when they're properly sped up. Because it's a caricature anyway, but when they're sped up, it's like the caricature aspect of it is advertised.
Rabbi Shmuley says he wants to murder more women and children, and then calls...
Hang on, maybe 1.75. No, I'll keep it as it is.
us genocidal because we're trying to protect women and children both in Israel and in Palestine. You see me sticking up for Israel when Hamas attacks. You see me criticizing Hamas, saying they're terrible, I don't agree with them. You see me trying to protect innocent lives on both sides. Then this guy comes on, he says, kill more Palestinians. We killed, what, 700,000, he said, in another war? So are you going to go to 700,000 in Gaza?
The Civil War, for God's sake. I wish you knew a little bit of American
Rabbi Shmuley, who says murder, 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 murder. That's all this rabbi. Hey, okay, I gotta say one
Jews
more
are
thing.
murderers, Jews are killers.
No, shut up.
Pierce, can I ask this man one question? The man
No,
ran
you
for
can't ask
president.
anything. All you ever do is lie.
Shut up and everything. Listen, stop your ad hominems. I want to ask one question, Pierce.
That's my ad hominem.
You care about the Palestinians. I have one question. Why don't you call, Cenk, for the unconditional surrender of Hamas today, the release of the hostages, and the war will be over? I am challenging you now to call for the...
Because he doesn't want to disappoint his fan. But just to add to that, how about this as a rule of thumb? Hear me out here. I'm being serious. It won't be taken seriously, but I'm actually being serious with what I'm about to propose here. To be invited on one of these highly viewed shows, Piers Morgan's show is really well known, and he's really bounced back, coincidentally, since October 7th. He's really had his heyday in terms of the clicks and stuff. I don't know if it's an offline show as well, but it seems like it's one of those online-only things, and I'm sure he gets higher views than like the traditional broadcast shows get in terms of like media-seeming things, where he brings on people to do quote-unquote interviews. But it's just so obvious that whatever's in the headline, whichever way the wind blows, that's where his attention is going to be. But anyway, I don't want to take shots at Pierce here. I'm just saying, I'm proposing a rule of thumb. It doesn't have to be absolute, but it should be kind of the common strategy to be invited on one of these shows, like his show. The well-dressed, the snappily dressed people who are always in suits, as you just saw with Mr. Genk and Rabbi Shmuley, and I think certainly every single male guest that shows up is very well dressed. And yet we see discourse time after time completely flop. So at one point, are we going to start making a connection? It was like maybe the kind of people who take themselves so seriously to the point where I can't imagine Genk in anything other than a suit. Every time I've tuned into the Turks, every time I've tuned into some other show that responded to him, like Genk's had on a suit. Rabbi Shmuley's always had on a suit. It's like every time I see people, and really the discourse flops, but they're always mindful enough to, from an aesthetic standpoint, have that be as maybe part of their cred. It's like you can't even picture them not wearing a suit. And so I'm saying maybe there's something to this. Maybe the people who take themselves that seriously, certainly Douglas Murray is a fan of being snappily dressed. I think one of them, I don't know if it was Douglas, but one of them even had like an article was like, it's important to dress to impress. It's important. I'm like, talk about adding to cognitive biases. It's this aesthetic thing. It's like you're snappily dressed and you portray yourself as being more credible than you are precisely because of that. And so maybe just like invite people who just kind of wear t-shirts and shorts and, sandals and stuff. People like me. Invite people who don't give a shit. And then you just might have people who are able to listen because they're not so wedded to all these practical things, like the views that they've committed to thus far, which are usually very groupy, like Mr. Rabbi Shmuley or Genk and his, Turk enterprise. These are all people who I think there's a correlation to this. They need to be perceived as credible people, so they dress to impress. And thus, they're way too attached to whatever their cause is. But it's like, just start inviting people who don't dress to impress, who are okay, maybe wearing a Tang shirt or all these other, maybe even ripped shirts. Like, I have some ripped shirts. I don't give a damn. I'm too lazy to go shopping for new clothes. So I wear my ripped shirts on a day where it's not a work day. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about any of this. So it's like, yeah, invite me, and I guarantee you invite people like me who don't care how I'm perceived based on how I dress, and I guarantee you the discourse will go further. I guarantee you. But maybe it shouldn't be an absolute rule. It should be a rule of thumb. So what do you think of that? Anything to that? I think it's worth a shot. It's worth trying out. Lord help me. I need to learn to say no. I need to learn to say no. But I don't think I will. I know this should not be watched. I'm probably going to go ahead and watch this. and create more work for myself, which I can't afford. I was too weak to say no.
Clip, I'm just going to play it, and you can comment or otherwise do.
I mean, this has some kind of continuity, because I think by now I would have done the Rabbi Shmuley bits, and I would have even referenced Rabbi Shmuley, and this is about Rabbi Shmuley, so I just want to point out, you know, well, you'll see.
It was extraordinary to me. We've had him on this show a few times, but I found this really quite extraordinary. Let's take a look.
Well, what they find extraordinary and disapprove of both is actually something they do in their own ways, but they just do it in ways that you can't as easily pick up, certainly if you're of the Volk. But what he's doing here, it's the same kind of extravagance that they indulge, it's just more glaring visually speaking, and so they will condemn it. But, well, let's just play it.
Storm is a day of celebration. We feel bad
It's 1.5.
for Candace Owens that she lost her job. So I figure, with her image of what Jews are supposed to look like, why not at least validate her? I am dressed up as a Candace Owens Jew. Now, this is not a Christian child, it's a Jewish child. But if it would be, I got my Christian blood. Mmm, spicy, delicious. I got my Jewish nose. I have filth, because Jews are all filth. And more than anything else, what does Amy have? Money!
I mean, what is your reaction to that clip?
I mean, the phrase in Hebrew is that's what we would call a chilul Hashem, right? It's a desecration of God's name, and that's what.
Yeah, I kind of like him more now, though. Rabbi Shmuley. Never thought it would happen.
Genk's head on a suit.
I'm not even going to do the correction for this within this video. I'm going to do it in some other video. This is how to improve the discourse, where I need to addend this and say it really shouldn't be as strongly as I put it, but I'll do that separately. This is just the next example I have lined up here in how to improve the discourse, and what I go on to play later in that video.
Rabbi Shmuley's always head on a suit.
You know, I recorded that one where Rabbi Shmuley is just doing the thing that made Ben Shapiro profoundly disappointed, and Pierce seemed to agree. He's doing that visual thing. Oh, all kinds of tropes. He's being a self-immolator through these symbolic tropes is Rabbi Shmuley. But here I say, within the same video, let's see if anyone's gonna spot it.
Every time I see people, and really, the time I've tuned into some other show that responded to him, like Genk's head on a suit. Rabbi Shmuley's always head on a suit. It's like, every time
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that segment as it is, the follow-up segment. And let's see if anyone's gonna say, hang on, I thought you said Rabbi Shmuley was always so conscious of how he's dressed. Like, here he goes beyond it. The man self-immolates visually, and that's why I have to respect it. You know what? This is probably just gonna go right after. Yeah, so right after I play the Shapiro Morgan, yeah, this one's gonna go there. I'm not gonna do a kind of pop quiz and see if anyone figures it out. No one figures these things out. There's these contradictions in my videos, folks. Here I said,
see people, and really, the discourse flops, but they're always mindful enough to, from an aesthetic.
Too often, I should have said, too often. But Rabbi Shmuley is the worst example.
Standpoint.
You just saw what Rabbi Shmuley did. I'm putting this in this video. You just saw what Shmuley did. That has balls. I don't care about what your sensibilities say about disgracing the group identity. Sure, Rabbi Shmuley, he may not have tried to, but it's a kind of disgracing of group identity. But what he did took balls. Maybe not, because maybe this is all very different in their group, and you can never really lose face insofar as your politics are aligned. It doesn't matter what you do personally. In terms of you being a hardliner and you being devoutly Jewish, maybe there's no way to save face. So maybe Shapiro is disappointed with Pierce Morgan, but what the hell do they know? They're diaspora level. Well, Shapiro, I mean, the kid is diaspora level. No, true Jews, Israelis. Rabbi Shmuley, maybe it didn't take balls. Rabbi Shmuley doesn't have to worry about losing face, because Rabbi Shmuley practices the right kind of politics and faith. And in Israel, that gets you further, unlike with Shapiro. That gets you further than just being a decent human being. Unlike with Shapiro, although Shapiro's reaction is sanctimonious. And probably not that heartfelt. Shapiro's got to nod that head for the camera, but who knows what Shapiro really believes. Shapiro believes, along with Mr. Peterson to a large extent, in BUXX, making them BUXX.
That B is maybe part of their cred. It's like you can't even picture them not wearing a suit.
But not Mr. Shmuley. Because of what you just saw.
And so I'm saying maybe there's something to this. have that be as maybe part of the discourse flops, but they're always mindful enough to, from Rabbi Shmuley. They're gonna see people. And the discourse flops, but they're always.
How about this for the few consistent viewers? Every single video is a pop quiz. You gotta spot these. This is a kind of find Waldo in my videos. You gotta spot these. Those viewers with attention spans, the dozens of you with attention spans who actually make it through the video. My video is a is a kind of either puzzle or Where's Waldo, with a lot of just kind of Seabrick elements thrown in the mix.
Mindful enough to on a suit.
So here,
Rabbi Shmuley's always had on.
Rabbi Shmuley is where Waldo is.
A suit. It's like every time I see people.
And while some things that are bad for you are difficult to resist clicking, at times certainly, other things, no, not so much. And are likely probably even worse for you. So the deeper subconscious knows that you shouldn't even feel it difficult to resist this, because it's that much worse for you, even compared to a Piers Morgan, Ben Shapiro exchange versus. I love that too. It's always versus. I'm not seeing much versus as when I actually click his debates, but always framed under versus. I mean, it's like I'll show some lenience to clickbait and view whores when they're actually just scraping the bottom and are on kind of algorithm unfriendly terms. But when the view whores use these kind of shortcuts versus when it's, it's just going to be a mostly friendly chat. See, smiles, we're going to make fun of the same things, we're going to smile, but it's versus, right? So when people who are scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of hits, when they use clickbait, they shouldn't. But I'll say, okay, you're at the bottom of the barrel. Use clickbait if you must, right? But when it's the king of the algorithm whoredom sitting on the top of the pile and they can't resist using these little shortcuts, it's just, it's so nauseating to the point where I don't even have to resist clicking it.
Anti-Semitism as being a chief motor of Arab resistance to Zionism.
It's not about the debate, by the way, the reason I'm doing this. You'll find out what it's about in a second here.
Didn't see it.
Did he make that claim?
I don't remember the word chief.
Yeah.
It's one of the elements.
A very binary.
It's one of the elements.
Binary.
Yes, binary.
Please don't give me this postmodernism binary. You're the one.
But you are thinking in terms of black and white.
You're the one that said the chief motor.
So that's where we are now. The word binary is too out there, such that he can make that kind of absurd claim and not be dragged, I guess is the street parlance now. He wasn't dragged for this. For whatever he was dragged for after this debate, it wasn't this. It was like, I don't care about the debate. I care about the rhetoric. And it's just amazing. A word as simple as binary sounds like it's postmodern. That's how out there it is. For someone who has a massive enough following and who's typically gets dragged for all kinds of other reasons, but like the reason I want him to be dragged, no. I guess that's where we are now. Binary is just quirky. No, it's a common word, and this is what everyone should care about. They shouldn't care about the contents of the debate itself. Those are a non-starter.
Can't just make shit up and say, but this is norm. He likes international law when it suits him, and he likes it when it doesn't. Personally, I think the biggest part of my debate with Finkelstein, and nobody even cares about it.
I care, Destiny.
Like this, I feel like anytime anybody ever talked,
I'm here to spread your best ofs.
To this guy, this like one clip should be cited, and then it's like, oh, this is a very unserious person.
Your best ofs where someone else does the screenshots that are very edifying.
Absolutely not. You're dead wrong.
Mr. Borelli, please don't teach me about the English language.
So the Declaration of Judge Point,
I said plausibility is the same concept as qualifying.
The court is not asked at this present phase of the proceedings to determine whether South Africa's allegations of genocide are well-founded. They're not well-founded. They're not even well-founded. The court is. You said that plausible was a high standard. It is absolutely not. It is a misrepresentation of the strength of the case against Israel, just like the majority of the quotes they have in this case are. And also, you said it was an extremely well-founded case. They spend like 1/4 of all of the quotations, some even pulled from the Goldstone report, that try to actually deal with the intent part. Which is, by the way, I think you guys, I don't know if you used the phrase, the Dolus Specialis, that the intentional part of genocide.
Sorry, I don't know that term.
I think it's called Dolus Specialis. It is the most important part of genocide, which is proving the special, it is a highly special intent to commit genocide. It's possible that Israel could.
That's mens rea.
No. The mens rea, yes, I understand the state of mind, but for genocide, it's called Dolus Specialis. It's a highly special intent. Did you read the case? Yeah. It is a highly special intent.
I'm going to ask you.
This using one's name over and over, even when one uses it correctly, people also got to wise up to that. Just overuse of your opponent's name, make it about the opponent, psychologically, subtly make it about the opponent, just use the name a lot. It's what Norm does. It's what many a Norm does.
Yeah.
As in, what many a normie who figures out they're in over their heads, they start doing that instead of just fessing. I'm in over my head. They just kind of pound on the opponent's name. In Norm's case, he made it too glaring by deliberately butchering the name. But
yes,
yeah, he's wrong here. He's wrong here. And a bunch of people thought they were dancing on Destiny's grave following the debate. But on the substance front, it was just more edifying than anything else that people, if the opponent is kind of a basement dweller, it'll play well. Basement dweller seeming. You can just be no holds barred, even though it's not a no holds barred contest, and people will notice that you're doing no holds barred tactics, But I kind of wish I were a basement dweller. I wish I had a basement, I don't have the same kind of blinds I had back in the day. So I'm all for, basement dwelling, but I can't do it because I have a storage, I don't have a basement. But because Destiny looks like a basement dweller, Norm thinks he can take liberties. And it works with enough of not just the credentialist, it works with the others.
Please stop displaying your imbecility.
Okay, I'm sorry, the declaration of the knowledge is imbecile.
Don't put on public display that you're a moron. At least have the self-possession to shut up. Did I read the case?
Putting my display on camera. You're comfortable putting yours in books.
Okay? I read the case around 4 times. I read all of the majority opinion, the declarations. I read Aaron Barak's declaration.
Then why are you lying and saying plausible is standard?
Because I said, even reaching the benchmark of plausibility is a very high standard in the world. It's the equivalent of a regional player qualifying for an Olympics. It's still 2 steps removed. You may not be on the team, and you may not get a medal, but to get qualified, which in this context is the equivalent of plausible.
Would it be fair to say, and I'm no lawyer, and many people watching and listening will not be lawyers, but would it be fair to say that the key point that you made your initial order and ruling upon was whether or not there was a plausible case that should be taken on by the court of genocide in the case of Israel's actions in Gaza after October 7, and you quite clearly decided that there was a plausible case. Is it right to say that's at the heart of what you decided?
I'm glad I have a chance to address that because the court's test for deciding whether to impose measures uses the idea of plausibility, but the test is the plausibility of the rights that are asserted by the applicant, in this case, South Africa. So the court decided that the Palestinians had a plausible right to be protected from genocide and that South Africa had the right to present that claim in the court. It then looked at the facts as well, but it did not decide, and this is something where I'm correcting what's often said in the media, it didn't decide that the claim of genocide was plausible. It did emphasize in the order that there was a risk of irreparable harm to the Palestinian right to be protected from genocide. But the shorthand that often appears, which is that there's a plausible case of genocide, isn't what the court decided.
This part?
No, now you're doing what Moeen said. You're becoming very selective about the law. If you want to forget about the law, Hamas had every right to do what it did. It had every right to do what it did, according to you, not to me, because you want to forget the law.
Do you still support the Houthis?
His underling feeds him. His underling brings him. Oh, man. I need these underlings because I'm disrupted often. I got to get my own food. I got to go and do other stuff on my own. But he's got his... Man, I need these servants.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a violation of international... That's it. There's like a destruction of, like... You don't take this person seriously anymore on this topic.
Yeah, so I haven't read any of those things that were the screenshots, just for the record. I'm just kind of banking on the fact that Destiny read them. Hooray!
Displaying your imbecility.
But also, I can't believe I didn't catch this. No, it's with an S always. Stop with a C. Like, what are we, Brits? No, it's offense with an S. Get with the program. God, I said a bunch of things about Tate, but it's in the perpetually delayed YouTube video. which I will just keep delaying. I might just end up uploading it on September 2024. So it's like the big, 15-year anniversary video, but it's just going to end up going on the 16th year anniversary. That's how fucking long I might delay it for. Who knows? It may be even longer than this coming September. That's how much stuff I've created that's a kind of to-do thing. But within that video, I go off on this whole Tate thing, and I don't want to keep holding all of that. So at least I'm going to put a bit of that, and I'm going to include it in terms of what's going to follow next. It's just it's not time sensitive, but it's a Tate thing that I shouldn't stay as silent on Tate as I've stayed, because Tate's kind of a figure that's not going away. Oddly, right? How is this a figure that hasn't gone away yet? You'd think that he would have had his expiration date, but no. These last rounds of figures, they're kind of sticky. Oh, but one more addition just on Tate. I didn't mean to imply that Matt and Trey would have gotten a lot out of him by way of having him talk a lot throughout the episode. No, I just meant one line. You could write a perfect line for him. Like, suppose there's some, hotspot that he's attending, and he's just coming in, and the limousine pulled in, and, there's paparazzi and all kinds of excessively faunish media. He has his own kind of excessively faunish media. He gets killed in the mainstream press, but, there's these Tate fauners still. I think because it's ultimately all ironic at the end. He's fundamentally an ironic figure. I don't know, maybe. But, so he's arriving. Suppose this is like another appearance in South Park, and there's this hotspot that he's arriving to. He's out of jail now. And then there's a bunch of interviewers trying to get a word in with him. Kind of like, think of the famous stars, like they did with Marilyn back in the day. He just comes out of the limo, and the whole town goes crazy. Well, that's like the scene in South Park, like let's say they did another Tate episode. But you don't have him say a lot. You just have him say, when they ask him, Tate, what's in your mind? I hate fat people. And then he just walks along and he leaves. That's all he needs to say, just one line. Because it's just, the whole shtick can be parodied with one quick line. I hate fat people. It's the kind of thing he would say. Maybe he has said it. I don't know. I don't watch him enough. I don't listen to him enough. But, less is more with a figure like Tate. But at least one line. He just said nothing in the episode. Boy, if I rewatch the episode and it turns out he did say something and I forgot it, and that something was similar to what I just said, there's no way I would have remembered it. But who knows? I'll rewatch the episode, and if he does indeed say something, no matter how dissimilar, I'll still won't upload this. But if I'm right, I will upload this. I'll throw this in because it's an important enough thing. I didn't mean anything other than less is more with kind of spoof of him. I hate fat people. He must have said it at one point or another. But who the hell can listen to Tate archives? Another work-related thing, actually, that I'm going to throw in here is, there's never been a single, in all my years of working, there's never been a single co-worker who was a devout South Park viewer who was going to catch every single episode. Not a single instance. At best, here and there, a few casual fans. And think about what that implies. Like, given how many colleagues I've had over the years, how many people have come and gone, not a single was a devoted kind of avid South Park fan. That means that there's a selection bias, because I've had this selection bias in my life in terms of the people that I have to interact with in, 8 hours, 4 days a week. And prior to 2021, 5 days a week. There was this huge selection bias where, they had to select for professional people, and I guess I somehow made the cut. I'm like the least professional person who uploads content to the internet. Like, everyone else seems way too professional to me the way they upload content. But, this kind of work-based selection bias means it's the kind of people who take themselves too seriously to, as adults, watch an adult cartoon. Though they watch a lot of other stupid, mindless crap. But it can't be an adult cartoon that's risque and, very often hits the mark. Not always, but very often to this day. It's been revitalized. Because, of course, this is somewhat later than what you just heard. Now I've seen some of the recent ones. I've seen Randy and the OnlyFans episode. I've seen the epic episode before that. This proves the Disney thing that I must utilize in visuals at some point down the road. But Anyway, yeah, I hate the fact that work means the type of people you interact with. There's a selection bias, and it selects for professionalism, which is just a proxy for someone who's just way too eager to please society and deep society. It selects for those types of people. They want pros. And it's hard to become a pro. You can't be irreverent and be a pro. I just somehow squeaked by. And that explains why they don't watch fun stuff. And why they strive in the worst kinds of ways. There's ways you can strive. Like, it's fun to strive athletically, but these people strive in all the worst kinds of ways. And as a result, they don't get my South Park references or, many other irreverent-based shows I watch. They just don't get the references. It doesn't always have to be a cartoon. They don't know any of these online personalities that I reference in my videos. They don't know any philosophers. They just don't know anyone because they're very focused on their grubby material gains. All right. But yeah, Tate should have just said, I hate fat people. That was the point of this audio. Remember this? Remember this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they do it, but then it doesn't end each day. It's just this on Twatter, but then I ascribed it to Jew versus Muslim. Now I want to ascribe the same thing, but not to Jew versus Muslim, but the same point can be made.
Yeah.
It's just this. And then that's like me just going like, what the fuck? These people do this every single day on Twatter, and they seem to get something out of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what it is?
Now I say it's Jew versus Muslim here in this clip.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's every Twitter exchange.
God, I'm sleepy here, but I'm like, I have an idea to do something with this Duckman, because I watch Duckman late when I'm super stoned, and but I do some good clips. I connect things, but I sound super sleepy. It's funny how sleepy I often sound in the Duckman clips and just exhausted.
You know what it is? It's every Twitter exchange. It's every Twatter exchange
between the people who say Trump lies. Oh yeah, and then it's like the Trumpies go, no, MSM lies. It's like, oh yeah.
Jew versus Muslim.
No, MSM lies per the Trumpies, and then the rest of the country, whether they're of the MSM or not, but the rest of the country goes, no, it's Trump lies.
Representatives, not even Jews versus Muslims.
Just the not even Trump's handlers, just his representatives, and then not even the MSM employees, but just their grander representatives. These two strategists, two camps and their strategists, just going, oh yeah, in terms of who does the lying.
Saying they're representatives, it's every single.
Yeah.
But except it doesn't end.
Yeah, and in this case, it doesn't end either.
Just every day you log on.
Neither. I'm the stud and you're the
Yeah, and that's especially like the MAGAs, like you're the wiener.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it can work with so many things. The point is, most people need more versatility, right? It's like no one evolved. One of the best tracks is people who don't evolve. There's just people like they stay 18 all their life long, ideologically.
There's a new one. COVID's episode boring. Can't we move on now? Well, this video is 4 days ago, and to be honest, I don't know if I'll do this or not as we prepare for the election stuff. I feel like probably the vast majority of conservative commentators should probably be out of work, should lose their jobs, should be kicked out, and other people should be brought in for the predictions and the analysis that they gave around COVID that ended up being so unbelievably and unfathomably incorrect. If we can't...
No, you just don't understand freedom and you hate Americana.
Get people to acknowledge how wrong so many of the statements about the vaccines and the disease were, I feel like we're like doomed going forward into the future.
Americana can't be wrong on medicine.
COVID and vaccines were probably some of the most diverging from reality statements that so many people agreed with in all of world history. What were the worst predictions? Basically every single thing around what the mRNA vaccines would do. That it would cause mass deaths, mass vaccine injuries, and all of these horrible side effects. All of that was wrong. The predictions...
I mean, the proof is I'm double jabbed. There must be something wrong with me.
And the declarations about what states would do, that everybody was going to permanently require vaccine passports, that everybody was going to be forcibly vaccinated, and it was going to be required across all countries. Those predictions were all completely wrong.
Hey, you people who use the word cuck, maybe you're cucked to your pelvis. You ever thought about that? Yeah, maybe you're the fucked up ones. Maybe I'm just entertaining.
Those I think those are the two biggest. There are also smaller ones that conservatives won't defend anymore about like creating it in a biolab. They all pretend they just meant it leaked from a lab.
You said as much as yourself. Someone say.
I know why I thought it was very sitcom-y, this part. Is because it says Avi, but it's Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane has some sort of a pipeline to Destiny live streams. It's Seth MacFarlane who set the record straight on the sugar and the Rockies.
Pure sugar out of cookies is near impossible. Yep, that's like it. You can argue with them later. How much am I saying?
It's Seth. That's why I thought, oh, it's too sitcom-y. No, it's not. It's just Destiny's on good terms with Seth.
My brain is not like, God, he's going to have so many rhetorical tricks.
This is when a lesser challenges him to a debate, and how he doesn't do what some other people do. When a lesser challenges him to a debate, he's all up for it, whereas some people are like, no, you can't just have read Wiki, you got to read more. You got to read the primary sources. So he's just going on about that, but I have a bone to pick with that too.
Oh, he's beneath.
Oh yeah, and he blurts out or silences the fucks and the other swear words. I guess, it's just not enough views, not enough. It's never enough, so you can't take a dip. You can make the content more authentic, but have like maybe a 5 or 10% reduction in traffic. No, that wouldn't be worth it.
Me, God.
It's Destiny values.
Blah, blah, blah. My brain is like, holy shit. I know way more than him about this. He has a massive fucking audience. Yeah, hell yes, I'm taking that debate every single fucking day of the week. Yeah, obviously. This is like the most no-brainer, excited chat I would ever have in my fucking life over something like this. Of course. The idea that like, oh, it's got to be so painful to debate somebody who has only read Wikipedia, if that's the narrative. Why? You should be able...
I mean, I guess it depends on the person. We can decouple knowledge, right? Which is what, knowledge and understanding and all these other good things. That's what everyone claims to be after. But at the same time, just because one person has more knowledge than the other, it doesn't mean that person will be more erudite and articulate and even just clever, right? These live debates are for kind of motor mouths like you, my fellow motor mouth, brother from another mother. But at the same time, not everyone's a motor mouth. And so why? Why does so much hang on this? Who's willing to debate who, right? I get it. If someone just wrote out a bunch of shit and then someone wrote something back to them and they didn't sit down and write out a rebuttal, then okay, tar and feather them. But like people who, do this it is kind of snobbish at the same, but at the same time, it's like maybe subconsciously they just recognize that they're not exactly erudite and or clever on their feet. But, anytime someone writes out a whole thing, they just read what they wrote and respond to that. But especially, the fact that, with all these hecklers in the live chats, like that can be distracting to some people. That can be very distracting, and it's essentially kind of, it's, you're all like dancing monkeys for the chat in one sense. The chat never takes anything seriously. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to be, I would go if I were invited, but at the same time, I would be a little queasy with all these hecklers and stuff like that. But yeah, anyone who doesn't want to go, it's like, as long as they can rebut you in written form, then they've done their job and you can rebut them in any form you like. But I don't think you get that.
Me, under the inadequacies of the deficits of my knowledge, you should be able to, so why would the entire...
No, because knowledge is not the same thing as articulation. And, well, I've covered that.
Our debate just be you screaming names at me. This should be the best layup debate view in the world.
Man, look at it go. Look at it go.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. Biden sounds like a nervous high school debater who's trying to fit in like every single particular fact he has about a particular point.
Oh, snap.
And Trump.
And I didn't even watch it, but it just so sounds like Biden. I saw a minute of it. My secondhand cringe just said, no, you can't do any more of this.
And the people that support Trump generally just live kind of like they live
from scratch.
Point.
Hang on.
Like a nervous high school debater who's trying to fit in like every single particular fact he has about a particular point. And Trump and
it's not even just Pops has to go or Gramps has to go because he's too old. It was specifically this. This has always bugged me about his, speaking to the nation, Biden. Like if I were Ezra Klein, I would just keep saying Joe Biden every time. It's like, we know who you're talking about, Ezra. Why do you have to say his full name every time? Or President Biden. These wonks, so like they say President. Like. Just say their last names, you fucking retards. But yeah, like the problem with Biden is like he's employed that method. He just tries to he tries to hit all the talking points in way too narrow a span. But you need to be as a decent press communicator in the digital age. You need to be allergic to talking points. Presidents aren't allergic to talking points. Neither is Trump.
People that support Trump generally just live. Yeah, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
Biden sounds like a nervous high school debater who's trying to fit in like every single particular fact he has about a particular point. And Trump and the people that support Trump generally just live kind of like in an emotional world. And
sick burn.
As long as Trump like hits the right emotional notes, like it always feels like he's giving a really good answer to everything.
It's all about those vibes. People have said it. It's just these people are not ashamed of the fact that it's just glaringly they live on vibes.
He just has to keep like basically playing the same song. But Biden is like, I think Biden and his answers, he just needs to focus on like one.
Pop's lost his marbles applies to both Trump and Trump's crowd and Biden. It applies to Biden more potently, but in terms of the MAGA coalition, the Vibes coalition, it's like, yeah, voting for Trump thrice, Pop's lost his marbles.
One or two things and just like hammer that home and then stop trying to fit in like every talking point. I think. Because it's the problem is like nobody cares about policy in these debates. They just want to hear you sound good and sound strong.
Yeah, that infotainment complex.
Yeah, he's getting like 50% result on like everything, and he's not getting it to the finish line on anything, right?
Basically, yeah, I think
that's kind of what I kind of thought about it.
I'm not that crazy about your interlocutor destiny.
Also, with Trump, it's like whenever he squeezes most of his time to answer the old question and whatever, they give him very little time.
I've never been a part of Destiny's chats. I'm just doing this whole sequence on Destiny. I should at some point upload like every Destiny thing as just a solo video of Destiny stuff, but it's just amazing. I've never commented on the guy's video. I've never been on his chat. It's not a parasocial thing in terms of like me being like one of the minions there. It's just I often have things to add because he did this splendidly. He gets it. He gets the MAGA's vibes.
Answer the new question, and if it's a tough one, he just goes blah blah blah. Yeah, no. I'm the best in this, they love me in that, and that's the end of that question.
But your interlocutors suck, from that Seth MacFarlane looking guy to this guy right now.
The folks who look at the interview from last night and go, "Oh, he survived."
Yeah, that interview being with Lester Holt, the most robotic man in the history of everything, Lester Holt.
Answer the question.
Yeah.
That's not within a million miles of good enough.
Yeah, why don't you do that more?
He has to make up a 16-point deficit.
Would I have been as condescending to Genk and even called him Genk had I not thought that, Devin Tracy, at least whatever else Devin Tracy did was god-awful. Like, yes, I'm just realizing it now, I'm processing it now, watching this back. I was next level condescending to Genk, and I even call him Genk, because I thought Devin Tracy did a decent enough job, and it kind of, someone's got to pick up the torch. Because Devin Tracy, like if I were him, I'd be even more pissed off than I am at YouTube for how much they've shadowed me and stuff. They've done it even worse to that guy. That guy should be allowed to be on YouTube and to, be calling Genk.
Got it in you. And in that regard. Yeah. And guys,
I don't know why I called it, I didn't catch this right away, but I wrote Mankind Debunks Societal Norms. It's the newer one with the breaking stuff. But it's Manchild, and wow, I only caught it watching back the previous clip where I recorded stuff.
You follow politics,
God, but any topic where brown people are afflicted in some way, it's the will goes and can't recover. It's just perpetually. We can't eat crow. We can't eat crow. Brown people are afflicted. It just, I guess some whites are that way too when it comes to their fellow whites. Something, telling false stories about what happened in apartheid South Africa. Yeah, some whites are that way too. So there, I just cleaned it up and made it non-racist. A lot of the audios are motivated by what I find cringe, not disagreeable. I'm immune to everything I disagree with. That's fine. It's fine to make me see that you disagree with me. What I'm really motivated by is that which I find to be cringe in terms of what motivates the audios. It's not mere disagreement. It's how my sense of cringe has evolved. What I find to be not just awkward, but especially cringe online, and why I really don't see that in most people. People are motivated by that which they disagree, and by that which they fear, especially. especially with this whole graphic, like the two towers accusing each other of destroying the country. The word destroy is now my least favorite word, right? Destroy the family, destroy the country. We gotta fight against them. You know how people overuse the word fight now? You know, you fight by just being partisan. That's how you fight. No. The causey people, right? I gotta go back to the causey people because they are what I find cringe nowadays. I don't find mere disagreement on really any issue cringe. It's when people get really causey about it and when they clearly amp up their self-deception or their, deception against the enemy or against the dupes. They're willing to be deceptive because they're causey. That is so goddamn cringe. Or when they're even oblivious to the fact that they're doing it. And it just sums up so much of what passes for his online discourse. It's just so cringy. That's why I have to keep responding to it. It's not that all these people, at bottom also disagree with me. It's how they go about conducting themselves in the online sphere. Like, just so much of the internet is cringy now. I can deal with. I'm immune to disagreement. It's fine. It's just there's so many people have to be cringy about it. And it's never been this alienating. It's never been that there's been this chunk of things where it's just I can't go online without worrying about starting to take snapshots of things that I want to expose, namely for being cringy and oblivious. Like, I can't go online because I can't take any more snapshots. I action per year maybe less than 1% of all the snapshots I take in the moment, thinking I'm gonna do a video on this because this person is being so damn cringy and they're being rewarded for it. I've done way too many of those. I'm gonna have to make those into a music kind of video. Certainly one titled "Lust Paved His Downfall," and another titled "Dame Went to May's Truth," where I'm just gonna flash all these things that I take photos, that I take snapshots of with my phone, thinking that this is so damn cringe, and the culture's oblivious to it, and the perpetrator's oblivious to it more often than not. They're so wormy and ant-like. I want to take a snapshot of it so I can talk about it and expose it in a video. But it's like, no, per year I action less than 1% of all those snapshots I take. So I need to just line them up because they're self-explanatory. They are. And I need to do a couple of these musical montages along with them. So why don't I make this the follow-up to "A Dame Went to May's Truth" whenever I get around to doing that. Well, it's coming up on 24 hours since his, should we call it an outburst? Since what he feels is just, frank speech. I guess that's why he did it, because he just wanted to do frank speech. You guys have double standards is what he said, but he hasn't updated the main channel, and we're coming up on nearly now 24 hours since I guess his outburst, because right, I'm on the West Coast. It's good to be on the West Coast. But yeah, maybe I should check last night on Destiny and see if he's uploaded anything there, because apparently he partook in this Twatter Spaces debate thing. I just like to see what he said exactly, but yeah, he hasn't uploaded anything. They kind of think they've silenced him, or they're portraying it as if he fled. Destiny left, and then they're just trashing his mental health and kind of, he needs to go out for a walk outside. All this kind of stuff that's just, I guess I'm kind of weaving it further into Manchild debunk societal norms, but it's just amazing to see how they can't see, like, when they look that eager to discredit him on the basis of, like, mental health, like, all he did is frank speech. That's what Destiny did. He should have been the graceful one and condemned it and not made it game theoretic, but really, from his standpoint, all he did was call you guys stupid double standards, that you're too will enslaved to see your own double standards and how often you play these. Fire. You guys play with violent political fireworks, you MAGAs. When I tilt the phone this way, I guess I'm referring to the MAGAs. When I tilt this way, it's Destiny. And so they're just trashing the guy after he left the Twitter Spaces, and I'm like, they're just so eager to make it about some personal flaw of his, just because he, I guess, just repeat the lie enough, and it becomes about his mental health. Well, so I'm just here to kind of counter signal to that. I don't think this is about Destiny's mental health. I think he did frank speech. I just disagree. I just think that you should do what you think is right, regardless of what the other side refuses to do. Because you don't have to be small like them. You don't have to be dragged to their level. And so it's not about his mental health collapsing or any other hateful person. No, should he lose his platform? Who should he be platformed? They're having this, you know. It was like 10-on-1 apparently, but now that he's left, they're having it. Should he be deplatformed? It's frank speech, folks. And yeah, you guys have double standards. MAGAs have double standards. But yeah, I just wonder what he did, where he is now.
On the Piers Morgan video, on the appearance I did, people were saying that they were deleting positive comments about me. Does anybody know, or does anybody follow that?
Yeah, he uploaded stuff.
It's me again.
I have no idea what he goes into, but gosh, that intro music. Destiny, I can hook you up. That is just, of all the horrible intro musics, you can make so many different things, come from so many different genres. That's what he chooses. I'm anti-excited whenever I hear that intro.
Yeah. Into my head.
Somebody put this idea into my head.
That conservatives are the ones that, like, set the rules for how we're allowed to act online.
No, just on Twatter. That's where you're getting it, just on Twatter. You're okay elsewhere. It's just, you know.
Do things with...
Because Elon just does a lot of pumping into certain kinds of things he likes for his whatever weird ends. He's a weirdo, but he pumps the algorithm on Twatter, and so that's why you get it on Twatter. But elsewhere, nah.
Impunity, and not really suffer any real consequences.
Of course, I'm the last to ask. I encourage versatility, but I do not practice versatility in terms of the sites I frequent. I'm sorry to say.
For it. But that you have to play by their rules, and you
No.
Yeah, that's it.
Only
you don't. There's like severe consequences.
Only on Twatter, and you know, maybe I don't know. See, I just don't know. I don't have the but look how late I am. Look how late I am. It's the 17th. What am I doing?
Somebody said this.
I'm getting high and having fun.
I don't know who said this. Right, hold on. Thing before. We thought of the insurrection thing before the firefighter thing happened, right?
Now he's talking about his vitriolic past.
The overall most...
Because he's got a vitriolic past, as do we all.
Vitriolic things I've said. If I had to guess, I would guess it probably would have been something to do with Palestine or Israel. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, but cons don't care about that. The cons who are after you over on Twitter,
probably would have been.
They don't care about that.
Tweet about
and you're noticing it now.
Palestinians, or would have been a comment about Palestinians, or would have been maybe even something about Israel when I came back and I started fighting with Zionists. So it was interesting to me that bumping into this
MAGA is worse than Norm
issue.
They're worse than Norm and his fawners.
In my mind, or maybe I'm just noticing it.
In terms of dismal treatment of Manchild.
Seems to have set off something that...
Their dismal treatment of this beautiful Manchild.
All this is so intangible. I'm going a lot by like intuition and how I like navigate these online spaces.
As long as they're asocial intuitions, Destiny, you're okay.
It feels like I'm like moving against something, or that there's something like moving against me that I haven't ever really been cognizant of before. That is, I would say, like scarier or more capable than like even the Muslim stuff.
They're worse in terms of their antics. They're threatening, but free speech, but threatening antics. They're worse than the Muslims.
Which I never thought would happen. I thought the Muslims were the crazy.
God, the blessings of obscurity.
These ones online. But after this particular bout of stuff, this has definitely been the most insane. And it wasn't even for like active threats or for an ongoing situation. Anything else, again, it was just a comment about one dude, that got killed. Which is, I mean, I can understand people being mad, of course, but like the level it is.
It was quite the awful comment. You didn't need that. But more on that coming up next on No Avail.
So it's interesting to see that pushback. Okay. We haven't even gotten...
Yeah, they have sacred cows, and they don't get it, because they're a fish that don't know they're wet. So they don't see their sacred cows as sacred cows. They see it as virtue. And everyone else just signals it, but they embody it. Everyone else signals it, but they embody it. And they can't be spoken to, but I'm going to try to speak at them. I'm going to do a lot of speaking at them. Coming up next on No Avail. It's going to be called Who Are the Weaklings? Coming up next on No Avail, who are the weaklings? level. But here I'm just wrapping things up.
One, we're still
coming up next here for this video is it's shop time.
Above the ocean waters on the schizo iceberg, okay? I said in an objective sense, my Palestinian comments were worse because in a
God damn it, explicit note. You probably loved this, didn't you? Well, I'm gonna give it a shot, but you probably loved this because it's Tim. See, I got Tim in my algorithm because of explicit now. Thanks a lot. Which means I've got Jones in my algorithm. Oh, who am I kidding? I love when Jones is in my algorithm. I seek out Jones elsewhere.
Objective sense, comments about people that are closer to you are going to be perceived as worse, even if they're not, right? You know, you're going to feel much worse about your child dying than 10 other children dying, you know, halfway across the world. That's just
and you're going to think it's moral to act in such ways, right? You can steer leftward, save 10, steer rightward, save your own child. The frightening thing is, it's not that they would steer toward their own child, it's they think it's morally defensible, even if you make it like 100 or 100 million children on the opposite direction. Like, do what you got to do, but Jesus, don't pretend it's moral.
It's human nature. So it would make sense that there would be people that would have a larger response to something more local or domestic than they would over Palestinians or Israelis, right? Makes sense. Despite the fact that...
But their guys shouldn't be mowed down. They should not.
There are thousands or tens of thousands of college protests all over the world.
I need you to signal in some way that you understand that their guys shouldn't be mowed down. He understands it. He just doesn't want to signal it because he just feels like, yeah, they've kind of taken over the turf, but they haven't. They've just done so where Elon's tentacles extend.
World. But okay.
No, which is, yeah, it's beyond Twatter, but it mostly emanates. The epicenter is Twatter.
Despite that. I can understand there being some blowback. I haven't put together all of this in any formal sense. It's just been bouncing around my head. So, and I'm not going to.
I'm just waiting for the revenge tour. Are you going to go on the revenge tour or not? Well, I can't milk this anymore. This is over now. But yeah, I hope he goes on the revenge tour, to be continued. 3, 2, 1. It's actually seeing the static. Now, it may be said that no Beware Each Social Canard video is complete without counsels and maxims, or, you know, maybe no Manchild Debunks Societal Norms video is complete with counsel and maxims. I mean, just every inch of this is just delicious. It's tasty cognitive stuff. His counsels and maxims, even though it was his, you know, one of his last major works that was on the practical side. He doesn't shy away from giving practical life advice here. Mr. Shop doesn't. And so, I don't know, this could go anywhere. This could go into, you know, Manchild Debunks Societal Norms, very much in line with what I'm saying there. But I can see it going in Beware Each Social Canard, or maybe one of these videos that I'm going to have the word coom in. Maybe it kind of goes there. But let's see, what excerpt do I want to give? I don't dare even, you know, feign, even pretend that I'm going to, you know, read some major chunk of this. I just got way too many of my own rants. Let's see. Men are like children, section 28. Men are like children in that if you spoil them, they become naughty. Therefore, I need to read it directly from I can't read it from the phone. Therefore, it is well not to be too indulgent or charitable with anyone. You may take it as a general rule that you will not lose a friend by refusing him alone, but that you are very likely to do so by granting it. In my case, fam, friends don't dare ask. You know, acquaintances don't dare ask. But, you know, my old man dares to ask for a third time before returning the second one. He dares to ask for a third time first he asked in 2019 because of his gambling crap. Latter two because of his real estate crap. But he dares ask for a third one without returning a penny of the second one and being coming up on a year overdue. But anyway, Shop says, you may take it as a general rule that you will not lose a friend by refusing him alone, but that you are very likely to do so by granting it, and for similar reasons, you will not readily alienate people by being somewhat proud and careless in your behavior, but if you are very kind and complacent towards them, you will often make them arrogant and intolerable, and so a breach will ensue. There is one thing that more than any other throws people absolutely off their balance: the thought that you are dependent upon them this is sure to produce an insolent and domineering manner towards you. There are some people indeed who become rude if you enter into any kind of relation with them. For instance, if you have occasion to converse with them frequently upon confidential matters, they soon come to fancy that they can take liberties with you, and so they try to transgress the laws of politeness. This is why there are so few with whom you care to become more intimate, and why you should avoid familiarity with vulgar people. If a man comes to think that I am more dependent upon him than he is upon me, he at once feels as though I had stolen something from him, and his endeavor will be to have his vengeance and get it back. The only way to attain superiority in dealing with men is to let it be seen that you are independent of them. Like I said, every single freaking word. This is what they need to show. This is what schooling should be. There's a mandatory book. I don't care. Even before the multiplication table, even before your numeracy literacy, you read this out to kids. You have a reader that doesn't sound as grumpy as me, and as anti-fam as me. I'm a familially jaded person. I am. My old man tipped me over the edge. So I'm reading this stuff. I'm loving it. It's catharsis, and I want to share a bit. I'm sharing again. But yeah, probably goes into beware each social canard. Maybe people who coom you out. Maybe I'm going to title a video, People Who Coom You Out. Because they're the silliest. The people is the begetters. Now, counsels and maxims just might be better per capita, per letter, per word, per sentence than his main work. Because his main work really does have these dense metaphysical, early going. When I say he didn't put his best foot forward with that book, I say it in some other video. I think it is the shop chapter video. I say he didn't put his best foot forward. I didn't mean the book overall. I just meant the strongest part of the book is the final third. So within the book, he didn't put his best foot forward. But here, it's top to bottom quality. But it's more practical. But it's philosophical meditations on the practical. So there is a saying, and so I want to read this out because of the people who think that, I shall not be a victim, I shan't be a victim. It's like, it's good. It's good that you shan't be a victim, but you just might be a casualty no matter what you think of yourself. There is a saying which is reported to have originated with one of the popes that when misfortune happens to us, the blame of it, at least in some degree, attaches to ourselves. If this is not true absolutely and in every instance, it is certainly true in the great majority of cases. This is why if you were to find yourself naked out on the street, it's why it's a dream. It's a well-known kind of record. The people who go to the psychiatrist or the psychologist, like it's a dream, it's a trope that's a dream. You're being laughed at, you're naked, you don't know how you got there. It's a misfortune, but nonetheless, everyone's laughing in the dream at you because the blame of your nakedness attaches to yourself. The blame of it, at least in some degree, attaches to ourselves. If this is not true absolutely and in every instance, it is certainly true in the great majority of cases. It even looks as if this truth had a great deal to do with the effort people make as far as possible to conceal their misfortunes and to put the best face they can upon them. Lest their misfortunes may show how much they are to blame. It is a kind of sickness. Yes, there's the victim fetish, but people who go on about that and condemn it ought to also condemn this. The inverse of that. The inverse of that also exists. Nakedness dreams, nakedness nightmare style things. It's like no one should, if your dreams are reasonable, no one should laugh at you. They should maybe pity you for a split second and bring you some garments if you're out naked and freaked out by your nakedness. But no, in the dream, they just laugh at you because them laughing at you in the dream shows that your subconscious believes that you ought to be ridiculed because it's a kind of misfortune and you're to blame for it by the mere fact that it's a misfortune. The deep psyche is a vicious beast. That's all I'm trying to say.
The night is colored, the day is white. But even towards nightfall, as soon as the candles are lit, the mind, like the eye, no longer sees things so clearly as by day. It is a time unsuited to serious meditation.
I don't know about that, Shop.
Especially on unpleasant subjects. The morning is the proper time for that, as indeed for all efforts without exception,
The morning?
whether mental or bodily. For the morning is the youth of the day, when everything is bright, fresh, and easy of attainment.
What the fuck are you talking about, dude?
We feel strong then, and all our faculties are completely at our disposal. Do not shorten the morning by getting up late.
What?
Or waste it in unworthy occupations or in talk. Look upon it as the quintessence of life.
The morning? As in, like, the morning?
As to a certain extent sacred.
What?
Evening is like old age. We are languid, talkative, silly.
No, well, maybe silly, but there's nothing wrong with being silly.
Each day is a little life, every waking and rising a little birth,
Sure.
every fresh morning a little youth, every going to rest and sleep a little death.
Sure, but what you said before...
But condition of health, sleep, nourishment...
Hang on.
Do not shorten the morning by getting up late, or waste it in unworthy occupations or in talk.
Oh, fuck you, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. Fuck, I'm done with this asshole. Fucking simping for the morning? The fuck?
Look upon it as the quintessence of life.
Disgusting. Dude, go fuck yourself. Hey, you didn't even have the social science lab to back that up. You're just going based on your own quirks and assuming it's general.
As to a certain extent sacred.
What a fucking asshole. Like, I understand kind of, saying physiognomy is true and kind of making other kinds of mistakes back when, a lot of people believed in physiognomy and shit, but the simp for the morning. Do not shorten the morning.
And easy of attainment. We feel strong then, and all our faculties are completely at our disposal.
No, it takes me like 6 hours to wake up. Fuck you, Shop. I don't like you anymore.